If Mauville City is so great, then how come there isn't a Mauville 2? Yes, the city located in the center of the Hoenn region and home to one of the cooler grandpas in the Pokemon franchise, Mauville City is actually pretty cool. And while I could spend all day gambling my money away at the game corner, there's an interesting side quest that opens up about halfway through the game. After you defeat Norman and get over your daddy issues, Watson can be seen standing in the middle of the road. You can't miss him. He'll present you with a new task. Apparently, because we're such a strong trainer, he thinks we'd be perfect to help out. Down in New Mauville, there's a generator that's been running this whole time and needs to be shut down, so he gives us the key and tells us where it is. Of all places, New Mauville is located on Route 110, where all the action is, apparently, and this is just one of those small ways in which the entire region really opens up once you get access to Surf. So inside the cave, we'll find the entrance that is opened by the key, and inside that is a maze filled with doors and electric Pokemon. This was supposed to be an underground city, but the project died in development and a bunch of electric Pokemon began living there. It's really an odd place. It isn't abandoned in the same way that other buildings might be, where people actually inhabited and used the facilities before some kind of tragedy. This is a place where things barely even got started. I love the detail of there being boxes everywhere, barely unpacked and just waiting for someone to come and finish a job. I guess on the upside, it's a great place for electric Pokemon to live without really causing any trouble. But the bright lights and sterile environment bring a new kind of creepy vibe to the franchise. It also doesn't help that they use the same generic eerie music present in other areas of the Hoenn region. But progressing through the dungeon, we'll find a few items lying around, as well as the good old Voltorb pretending to be a Pokeball, the classic Mimic continuing to assert its dominance. At the very end of the maze, the generator can be seen and turned off with a simple press of the big red button. There isn't a whole lot to do here, but it makes for some nice training, and the Thunderstone in the last room, as well as the Thunderbolt TM that Watson gives you as a reward, are some nice loot. I like that this is one of those optional quests, but it's still kind of part of the main story, because after defeating Norman, you'll have to go back through Mauville City anyway, and seeing Watson there prompts the player to interact with them. And then by the end of things, the Thunderbolt TM is a pretty important item to obtain. So I guess it sorta counts as being part of the main story, but technically you could just not do this and still become the champion. But I think New Mauville as a whole is pretty interesting. Watson was planning to build another whole city underground. Like, it's an entire man-made structure underneath the already existing city, and they just left it there. Though in the remakes of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, it got a bit of a downgrade. Rather than being a maze of doors with boxes everywhere, we can only access one level with 2 rooms, the back of which houses the generator that needs to be shut off. Functionally, it's still the same, but I don't really like that this just feels like another cave rather than what New Mauville felt like in the original. In the description for this one, it is mentioned that there are a total of 69 underground floors. Nice. Which kinda makes it even creepier with the sheer magnitude of how many there are, but we don't get to access any of them, so it really isn't as creepy. Though with just how different the main Mauville city is in these remakes, we actually kinda see the full vision brought to life. An entire city built into one building with shopping centers on the first floor, apartments above, and an outdoor plaza. There's just so much to talk about here, and it's one of my favorite locations in the remakes. But I think the main point for now is that this is what New Mauville was likely meant to be in the original games. And it's really interesting to see just how much they wanted to expand and build. Though with all of this combined with the disaster of C Mauville, I think it's good that they stopped when they did. New Mauville did kind of appear in the anime, not necessarily by name, but there is an abandoned facility where electric Pokemon live. This is a nice episode, but it is mostly focused on Watson after he's lost his groove. In the beginning of the episode, he suffers an embarrassing defeat, one of Ash's quickest victories, and then Watson heads off to the old building where he befriends an Electrike. Then there's a climax where they defeat Team Rocket and Watson is back to his old self, telling Ash that they'll have a rematch when his new Electrike has grown a bit stronger. I like this episode, but as I said, it doesn't really expand on New Mauville in a meaningful way based on how it appears in the video games. But I like how Watson actually gets to have an Electrike here, kind of foreshadowing the team that he has in Emerald version, where Manectric is his ace Pokemon. That was something that always bothered me in the original Ruby and Sapphire, how he didn't have the cool new Generation 3 electric Pokemon on his first battle team. But to bring things back around to the new Mauville side quest in Emerald version, this is actually how you unlock a rematch against Watson. I always think it's so cool to see gym leaders, outside of their gyms. So coming back through and seeing Watson just hanging around waiting for the player always stood out to me. There was something about this little adventure that I feel like it was memorable enough, but still weirdly obscure that it doesn't feel like part of the main story and could easily live in the back of your mind. I'm also a fan of how this is another place that continues tying into the overall theme of the Hoenn region. I've gone on about how this is a place where we see people live with and amongst nature in various ways. New Mauville is one of those places where ambition was met with some pushback. Rather than trying to expand the city that's already there, they tried to cut into even more of the natural environment. That hubris was met with Pokémon taking over the facility as their new home, creating a wholly unique place that can sort of only be done with electric Pokémon. This becomes an area perfectly suited for their needs, and so it's left to them instead of being inhabited by humans. Just another interesting perspective that fleshes out the ideas of the region. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Is this a side quest that you happen to miss in your first playthrough, or do you remember it vividly? And how do you think it all connects to what exactly they're cooking up in the Mauville City Planning Committee? Anyway, I should probably make sure that all the generators are turned off. I don't want any mishaps on my watch. Thank you to every channel member for your continued support, especially the great Gators: Swiss Cheese, Lockadox, Caden Herb, Panchoni OSC, Leafy Lilith, Skyraker, Evie, Victor Bryan, Dijon, Matthew Kelly, Mazhar Siddiqui, Jacksident Prone, Gallantry, Gator Kid 509, TF, Cheeseburger Lasers, Mathaclock 941, Nomad Nobi, Pastel Blood, Taijirai, Justin R, Volity, Cosmo Zero, Phantom, and Quago. If you would like to support, see your name here, get access to emotes for comments, live streams, and sometimes early videos, you can become a channel member today. You can also follow me on Twitter as well for more memes. Anyway, this is again Rex, and I'll catch you all later.
Are you ready to advance? Then choose 2 Pokemon instead of 1.
All right!
Combine their powers together, and you're ready to battle at a whole new level.
Let's go!
Pokemon Advanced.